We are friends. We are friends. We are friends to the bitter end.
The bitter end.
Welcome to Table Talk. I'm Rich.
And I'm Alex. And today we're going to teach you how to play the game called Wingspan.
That's right. And as you know, we like to pair our board games with a tasty little thing called beer.
Very tasty.
I'm drinking a Party Jam Peach Sour Ale from Hermit Thrush Brewing, which is in Brattleboro, Vermont. So we got another Vermont beer. Thank you, Brattleboro, Vermont, and Hermit Thrush for producing my beer. What are you drinking, Alex?
Well, I'm going to go slightly to the south of Vermont, and I'm going to introduce to you called Ghost Hawk Brewing. And that is in a place called Clifton, New Jersey. And I'm going to be enjoying their Goose is Loose.
Goose is Loose.
And it is a Irish extra stout. So nothing says the dead of summer like an Irish stout.
Yeah, right. Definitely stout season.
So you have already done yours. So let me
yeah, sorry. I've kind of already been sipping. I have a backup because I tend to drink more than you during these shows. I have a backup, which is a Party Jam Plum.
I need to work on my pouring skills. I just want to say I enjoy drinking beer. However, I'm not the master pourer. But
no, that's fine.
So as you can see, it's very chocolatey.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's great.
I like it.
Very.
Is there any sediment? No sediment this time?
My sentiment is that I'm going to enjoy this.
All right. Cheers, bud.
Cheers, my friend.
Welcome to Table Talk. Two very different beers.
They're not the same at all.
Yeah.
Yep. But good.
Just the bird thing. That's all we got to hit on. We got goose and we got hermit thrushes. Didn't even know a hermit thrush existed. I actually found the hermit thrush card for.
Hey, nice.
There's the hermit thrush.
Yeah. So how do you play it? Like, what's with so there's birds and nature? What's going on?
Yeah. Birds and nature. Lots of bird cards. 170 bird cards. So this is the board. This is a player mat. So this is the mat that each player gets. So this is just an individual player mat.
Okay.
What you have on the player mat are 3 different regions. So you have like this forest region, kind of the meadowlands, and then you have water. So there's different types of birds. Each bird card can get played in a specific region.
Oh, it's your hermit thrush.
It's my hermit thrush. It's got a little forest thing on the top of it, which says that's the region where it can be played.
Okay.
So I can play it in this top region here. All right. So the idea is, so each card has an activation, something that happens when it's on your board.
Okay.
And birds, in order to play the bird, you have to feed the bird. There's this cool little instrument called Dice Tower.
Hey, well, that's cool.
There's the Dice Tower. You roll these dice by putting them through the Dice Tower, just like so. All right.
It looks like a birdhouse.
Yeah, it's a birdhouse. You can pick food from the Dice Tower, and then you have to feed your bird before you play it. So this bird, the hermit thrush, needs a slug, as you can see at the top.
Okay.
Slug and 2 cherries or 2 berries in order to play it.
Great diet.
So one of these was a slug, which I'll make it a slug. Then if I collected these, then I would be able to play the bird. Okay?
Okay.
After the bird is played, you can activate it using these little activations. All right? Okay. Then you do whatever the bird tells you to. So in this case, the bird says, players with the fewest birds gain 1 food from the bird feeder. So that's something that everybody does at that time, and then that's your turn. So you can pick a different activation each time. And then birds score points by laying eggs, which will go onto the card. And each card tells you how many eggs the bird can lay. This one can only lay 2. It tells you how many victory points it's worth, which is 7, which is the feather icon. And it tells you what type of nest it has, which this one is a star, which means it does a lot of different nests. Others do like this duck. Let's do this Canada goose.
A goose is not a duck, Rich.
Sorry. This Canada mallard. Goose, mallard, duck, all the same thing? No. This one has a specific nest type. I don't really know what that means, but that's what it is. So you can lay eggs. You can lay eggs. You can get bird from the bird feeder. You can get more bird cards into your hand. And throughout the game, you get different birds that end up lining up, and they do different activations for you. That's kind of the general concept.
All right. So all well and good. You know, you got a bird. They get to eat slugs, get to have eggs, and you know, cycle of life kind of thing. So what is there? Is there a goal in this game?
Yes.
There's a goal.
Yes, you're right. As in most games, there are goals, and there is. The more birds you have on your board at the end of the game, the more victory points you get, just based off of the victory points of that bird. And then you also get victory points for how many eggs you have on each bird. So if you have a lot of eggs on your cards, then you get victory points that way as well. Okay. And you get victory points for different round bonuses. So there's a sheet that gives you, so you play it off through 4 rounds, right? So there's different challenges that are unique to each game. So you have these little challenge markers here. You draw them at random. You place it on round 1. So each round at random, you're going to draw different challenges that everybody's trying to get in that round, which gets you extra points depending on how you do. All right. So those are basically the winning conditions. I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 other ones depending on like how much food you have, or there's certain cards like owls and eagles that will capture smaller birds and eat them. So they collect points for you too by just by collecting other birds, basically.
Interesting.
So it's a game where you're a bird watcher or a bird collector, a bird enthusiast, I should say. Oh, yes.
Speaking of bird enthusiasts, so can I introduce you to someone?
Yeah.
It's
our first guest.
It's a first guest, so I just want to make sure that that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
You got somebody who would be interested in Wingspan?
I do have someone, a very specific someone.
Oh my gosh.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I want you to give a warm round of applause to Virginian-born Rufus. Right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rufus.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Rufus.
Rufus, yeah. I think he would very much enjoy Wingspan, though admittedly his wingspan is probably less wide than my hand, but that's okay.
Can we
Cheers.
Show it off? Does he?
No, he doesn't want to do that. No.
He doesn't. Yeah, that's fine. I don't want him to feel pressured.
I mean, he's a bit of an old man, so like he doesn't really, he's not the old days of his, marathon exercising and flying around the world. He didn't do that.
Yeah. He's past that now.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Rufus, he's beautiful. I like him.
Well, thank you.
What type of bird is he?
He is a cockatiel. And of the Lutino breed variation. So similar to dogs or cats, birds, especially pet birds, can have different variations. So in this case, the Lutino cockatiel is kind of a pale white/yellow with orange cheeks. And here's the funny thing. So I don't actually know what he is.
Okay.
Like boy or girl. Like no idea. Because
we're using he.
I in 4th grade I called him a he. Yeah. So and he's never told me otherwise. So I don't really know.
Wait, how do we tell with birds?
So all right. So sometimes a little funny little fact here about birds. So a lot of species, the male and female are different colors and or sizes. And this is a fairly recent fact I learned, is that usually the females are of a less colorful hue in general, and it is actually because of it helps them camouflage if they're looking after the nest. Now, obviously, there's certain animals, say like bald eagles, that are both of predatory, they're birds of prey. So both, I think both the female and the male look after the chicks. But in some cases, some variations of bird species, it's primarily the female that's, sitting on the eggs, and then the guy goes and gets worms, millet, whatever.
Slugs, rats,
berries, cherries, apparently.
Cherries.
But in the case of Rufus's breed variation, there is no difference between the colors. So you can't really tell. And ironically, this is how he came into being, is that one of my relatives had 2 cockatiels and thought that they were, I think, both girls. And turns out that one was not. And
not true.
Not true. And then all of a sudden there's a big old clutch of eggs, I think 5. And he was the runt of the litter. So in 1998, in, I believe, April. We'll just say 1998 in the spring.
98?
98. My friend,
we've talked about Rufus before. I think it was episode 1, actually.
Okay. I think so. Yes, I think so.
We're talking about pets.
Uh-huh.
So I know he's old. How old is he again?
So he just turned 22 this year.
Wow.
To put it into context, I have a few coworkers that are younger than this feathered being right here.
Right. Yeah.
And he when he's 22, the average age of most cockatiels when they're in captivity is anywhere between 16 and 25 years. So he's definitely on his, nice. every day's a gift, which is great. And some of them have been known to live as long as, I think, like 35, 36 years old. So their lifespan's pretty long for there he goes.
Right on cue.
Right on cue.
Yes.
All right. So
that would happen, actually.
Birds for those of you, he just pooped. But bird metabolisms are so fast. Like if you have a bird and you take it to the vet, you can actually hear their heartbeat. It's kind of cool how it's real quick. But because of that, their digestive systems go right to work, and they're all about efficiency. Birds are incredible, efficient creatures. So he goes to the bathroom every 20 minutes, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be great? No. But
wouldn't it?
We
would have to go like 8 times within.
The subway would have to go a lot faster to get to where you need to go. I'd be like, guys, I gotta go. I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah.
No, I could just see it, middle of an interview. So what makes you different from, what would you be able to contribute? I gotta go. Excuse me. Sorry.
Well, it's been 25 minutes and I haven't.
25 minutes. I'm all about.
That's mine.
I'm hyper focused in getting my job done, and then I go to the bathroom every 25 minutes. Oh man. Anyway, so thank you, Rufus.
Well, welcome to the show, Rufus. I'm so happy to have you.
Now, sometimes, hold on. Can I get you to talk? What do you think?
Yeah, he's stage fright.
Yeah,
all 11 people watching this show.
Well, and the funny thing is for those of you who are probably listening to the podcast only, you'll probably be like, "There's no bird on this show. We never heard him." So he's sometimes pretty quiet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So if you are listening, there is a real bird that Alex is holding and is now picking at Alex's hair.
So when you're a kid and you grow up in middle school, and in middle school, I will say I had a pretty good experience in middle school. I enjoyed where I went to school. There he goes. Yeah, I tweeted a little bit. But it's funny when you're the only person that remotely has a bird in your class, word gets out, and then you're the bird guy. So I became bird boy.
You've been bird boy all these years?
Oh yeah, which I don't care, man. He's cool. And the original reason why I got him actually was because I couldn't really focus well in 4th grade, and my parents actually figured out that it mainly had to do with the fact that I just didn't like being alone working. Thank you. And then they got the bird, and it was like,
really?
It solved the issue. So it was as long as like I had something else in the room that was alive, which is great for birds because they're very independent. He'll do his thing. Obviously, he enjoys not being in his cage. But if you get the chance, he'll just kind of chill and not really do much. What do you think, bud?
Can he fly? I mean, is that a weird question?
So when growing up, we would clip his wings, which is a pretty standard practice usually for when you keep birds as pets.
Okay.
But the older he got, we kind of realized that, like, you know, if you have hardwoods, if you have tiles on some of the floors where you're interacting with the bird, it kind of helps when he has some flight wings to work with to kind of parachute down. So ever since then, you can kind of see it right there and there.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, his left wing, the flight wings don't grow as well on that side than on this side.
Okay. Huh.
So we've kept him kind of normal, I guess, ever since then, and he's been doing fine so far. So anyway.
He or she,
yeah, never know.
Rufus or Rufette.
Yeah, Rufus could work, but yeah, and so that's Rufus, and
so what you said they were from Australia?
Yeah, the original species is from Australia. They're kind of a common, almost like grassland, scrubland, forest dwelling creature. They have if you look at on Wikipedia, they have a pretty wide range of where they live in Australia. They're very, like, they're not endangered. They're very common, but they make great house pets for birds. I think beyond the budgie, kind of the standard parakeet, like the one with the blue and the stripes. Yeah. These guys are number 2 because they're easy to breed usually, and they're very friendly for what they are. And what's also nice is, unlike the big ones like cockatoos and macaws, cockatiels are pretty quiet comparatively. Like when they squeak or squawk, they're not that loud. So
nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was
gonna see if I could find them in the game, because there's, like I said, 170 bird cards. Look at all this. There's 170 of these in the game, but they're all North American birds.
They're all North American birds.
So he wouldn't be in here, I wouldn't think.
No, probably not. He's even though, from what I understand, I think the Lutino species is here. Let me turn him for you.
He's going to hang out with us. I love it.
Yeah.
He's going to be like our sidekick. Look at him. Go. What's he eating?
So he's eating millet. It's a kind of a standard treat.
I love melon.
Millet, not melon. Millet.
I love millets.
I mean, I think you can have millet as like it's basically like a grain. It's easy to eat for birds. I think it's often the texture. As you can see, he's kind of going to town with it. So yeah, I figure he's, being interviewed. There's nothing like a good old snack. It's just like Brad Pitt. Anytime you see him on camera, he's always eating something. So this is the case with Rufus.
Well, maybe he can answer some of my my bird questions. I have a few bird questions.
I'll be Rufus' translator in case he doesn't have the answer. So
that's great. Well, first, before we get to that, I felt like we should both draw cards.
Okay, ready?
And
wait, Rich. Here we go. All right. All right, my hand's in Brooklyn. All right, here we go. That one. Oh, dude, is that
this is your spirit bird?
Is that a red-throated hummingbird?
This is what I feel. Yeah, it's a ruby-throated hummingbird.
Ruby-throated, right?
Your spirit, the ruby-throated hummingbird.
All right. Well, I'll don a completely different personality type than myself. But then again, if the hummingbird translates to how much I can talk in a given minute or interview, then it's perfectly me. So what is about the ruby-throated?
That symbolizes you. You're a colorful character.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It says hummingbirds feed on nectar, but they also eat many small insects.
Interesting.
Oh wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've heard that about hummingbirds. I saw one nail a mosquito once. I pumped my fist for them.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Caught a mosquito?
Oh yeah, they're real quick. The hummingbird, I want to say it's at least 150 beats per minute per minute, something like that. No, it's probably more. But like if you watch them, it's amazing to me, both how fast they are. Just they'll right. It's almost like watching a housefly. I mean, I am Mr. Slowpoke compared to him. But I will say what's really cool is watching hummingbirds. If you ever have a hummingbird feeder, in an area like the eastern seaboard is actually a pretty big. Well, I should say there's a ton of hummingbird species all across the North American continent.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really fun if you get one, and then all of a sudden, the hummingbirds realize that like, hey, this is the hummingbird place to get some food. They all get super territorial, so it's almost like watching like aerial dogfights happen between hummingbirds, where they they never really hit each other or hurt each other, but just in general, they tend to try to intimidate each other off.
And they got the
feeder. Yeah,
they got the long.
Yep.
You'd think they could like, ding, like flip. All right, here's my spirit bird. I'm a gray catbird.
Now that sounds like an animal that didn't know what it wanted. Is it a cat or a bird?
Cat, bird.
Describe it to me.
It is catbirds mimic other birds and also have a call that sounds like a cat meowing. What?
Oh yeah.
That's so bizarre. I don't understand. I'm trying to think of what the similarities are between a cat meowing and a bird call. I've never heard anything.
Well, here's the funny thing is that it sounds unbelievable when you first hear about it, but some of especially parrots, and I mean even mockingbirds to a degree, like they'll mimic, whatever. To where I've heard a story once of a of a woman. So the story goes is that she had a parrot in the main family room, and also in the family room was a computer. And so all of a sudden, she's sitting around and the bird starts looking at his toy and starts like yelling obscenities, like straight up like cursing, dropping F-bombs, and all sorts of other 4-letter words that, are not particularly great for the podcast. Right.
Didn't like its toy.
Like it was just kind of random, and it started doing it, and it wasn't angry, but it would act like its voice would sound angry. So the owner's like, what the heck's going on? And then she started thinking about it, and she's like, oh, so late at night, there's also a computer in that living room, and I play solitaire that night. And I curse when I lose. So as the old saying goes, remember the Titans, attitude reflects leadership. So therefore, the parrot was mimicking the human.
Nice.
So I wouldn't put it past the cat bird to just start meowing to the cat, and knowing the cat is probably be very confused.
The whole species of birds just like hung out with cats at one point, and then just mimic them to the point of just adopting their sound.
I bet what it is that the catbird had to figure out a way to placate to the cat in order not to be eaten. So maybe it's one of those it's one of those stroke those egos kind of things. Like, hey, I think you're cool, so I'm just going to speak your language, and I'm just going to
maybe it's like the first few catbirds were dwelling with a blind cat and adopted that to make it seem like just to kind of like lower their suspicions that there might be birds in the room. They're just like, hey, I bet we can I bet if we start sounding like cats, he won't even know we're here, right?
That's that takes away the fact that cats have sense of smell, but
sure.
Go with that. Yeah, sure, I'll go with that. Yeah.
Do they? I mean, do we really know?
I don't know.
Do we really know if a cat can smell? I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't believe it.
I'm assuming they do, because anytime you open that tuna fish can, you stick it, you put it into the thing, they have that moment of they'll smell it and be like, oh, this is good. Okay, now I'm going to go in. So that's what I've heard anyway.
Okay, I concede. I will believe that cats can smell.
So, all right. So speaking of birds, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Let's talk about owls, okay? Because owls, I think, are very popular. There's Temple, the university. They're the owls. Owls are vestiges of wisdom in many cultures, both like in the Greek tradition and also a lot of Native American traditions. Most things of owls is like, hey, owl's a good thing. Owls sort of sound spooky at night if you hear them in the forest. What's the deal? What's the deal in Harry Potter if owls are used as messengers, right? For letters or whatever. But don't the wizards show up faster?
Yeah, because you got a train, you got apparating, flue powder, broomsticks, you got all this stuff, right? And the fastest way we can get letters to each other is via owls. That seems interesting to me.
Yeah, it does.
little confusing. But I like that owls are incorporated in it as a literary aspect of like creature. That's fun.
Well, and there's nothing like, because I remember watching it as a kid, because I got my buddy right here. And oh, by the way, you'll see him sometimes if he relaxes, he'll tuck his leg in. Birds won't actually ever like go horizontal when they sleep. They'll only sleep with one leg up, and then they'll switch. So that's just kind of, so it's like he does like a lot of naps basically, and he'll kind of wake up and then he'll switch and then he'll go back to sleep. So he may do
interesting.
That. Yeah,
I'm gonna start trying that.
I mean, see how that plays out, man. I wish I could do that. That'd be great. Take 20-minute naps every hour.
Just at work, just like be like, hey guys, I'm taking 20.
What are you going on a walk?
Perch up on one leg.
Yeah, I'm gonna totally go on a walk. No, I'm just sleeping. So yeah, but like that's one thing, at least with the Harry Potter thing, where it's like I got it because like, hey, like I love the idea of having a pet, and for some reason, like a dog, running into the main hall. One, it would be really difficult, like on a cinematic standpoint, to have the same number of dogs as they had owls dropping off mail. And
that's true.
It just takes one dog to be like, oh, chicken, and then that's it. Like,
so you're saying the owls are probably smart enough? They're probably the most trustworthy animals,
right? That's in my opinion. Some of you who are watching this may remember this. There was a movie about a bird, and it was called Polly.
Yeah, that's my favorite movie.
Yeah, so Polly, which is an interesting one. So I watched it right around the time, I think a couple of years before Rufus came into being.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting was, and it's funny, it still moves me in that story. We're like, yeah, of course, it's a kid's story. There's some silly things, and some of it probably didn't age well. But I always like how Tony Shalhoub, who plays the Russian immigrant, I think he's Russian. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's Tony Shalhoub is in Monk. He's in Galaxy Quest. He's in a lot of great stuff. But he plays this I think this janitor custodian in this local science center, and this parrot is caged, and he's essentially become this science experiment, not being like tested for things, but like literally it's like an intelligent test kind of thing. And they do this with birds a lot. But it's the story. It's like this long epic saga of this bird who's trying to get back to his kid, and this kid is a girl. I forget her name, and so he went from I think from the East Coast all the way to LA or something like that. But that is the one movie that I know of that features specifically a bird as a hero. Most of it is just diverged into either cats and dogs, and most of the time dogs are the protagonists and cats are either the antagonist or they're kind of like the sly side character who's helpful, but kind of like, I'm helpful because I feel like it.
We did get an update from our Googler. So the ruby-throated hummingbird generally spends the winter in Mexico or Florida and migrates to eastern North America for the summer to breed.
To do the work of future generations.
Yes, to contribute.
Yes, there you go. Yeah,
the species as a whole.
Well, we live in terms of like, for those who are remotely interested in this subject, we live in a really cool area on the Eastern Seaboard, in which I think there's a lot of there's great responsibility, but also opportunity for us all who live on the Eastern Seaboard, because a lot of these bird migrations, there's basically almost I forget the word, but there's certain birds that just stay in one place and they don't go anywhere. So, for instance, sparrows, usually like a common, I think it's the European sparrow that kind of took over the world. They don't particularly migrate anywhere. Whereas a lot of the kind of native species that are migratory will go all throughout the Eastern Seaboard, usually going up to either Canada or kind of the Northeast section, and then working their way down to, like what you said, Florida and Mexico for the ruby-throated hummingbird. What's cool about that, if you're a birder, you get to see all kinds of different species. But what's also cool is that, like, for instance, if you have a home or an apartment and you want to be able to somehow contribute to, their travels, imagine yourself that you're on a road and you're about to run out of gas, and all of a sudden in glorious shining lights, gas and diner right there to your right. Oh, that's essentially, if you actually are able to do hummingbird feeders, especially for like the ruby-throated hummingbird variation, you actually are kind of giving them a rest area to like refresh. Okay, I can keep going all the way down.
You're a small business owner.
Exactly. Darn right.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, important because like, and everyone knows that like there's certain amount of pressure in terms of what human activity does to like nature and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into the details about that because I think we all, to some idea, understand that. What is great though is that we don't just sit on that. Like there's things that we can do to help in some way, some capacity, our feathered friends working their way down. So anyway, that's my spiel about the ruby-throated hummingbird.
There you go. Get hummingbird feeders.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. The gas stations for birds. All right, gray catbirds are relatives of mockingbirds. So that's actually kind of what we were saying, right?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. We got it.
They share that. They share that group's vocal abilities, copying the sounds of other species, similar to cat. It's basically exactly what we were talking about.
Yep.
Off the top of our heads, we know these things. You came to the right place, listeners and viewers, to learn more about birds. I got another update now. They'll just keep coming.
No, I like it. Keep coming. I like it.
Some North American birds that don't migrate are. Ready for this? Do you know this? What do you guess? There's 3.
Well, I know the Canada goose migrates.
Okay, not on here.
I would say the cardinal does not migrate.
Okay. No.
It's not listed?
No. It might, but I don't know.
How about
some North American birds, so it might be.
How about the chickadee?
No. Big. Think big birds.
The bald eagle?
not the big bird, but
bald eagle?
Not bald eagle. Something that we've already talked about.
Cardinals do not.
Harry Potter.
Oh, owls, of course.
Owls. Some owls. Vultures as well.
Yeah.
And woodpeckers.
That makes sense though, because their food source doesn't move with the season. So like if you think about it, owls go after mice and rats and rodents, and rodents.
Vultures just eat whatever.
Vultures eat, what we hit on the road, and they say thank you very much, and then they start eating. And then
circle of life.
Right. And then what was the third one?
So it was woodpeckers.
Oh, well, and then woodpeckers, of course. Obviously the bugs can't go anywhere, so they're
trees.
They're doing that.
Trees.
Okay.
So wait, hold on before you get to your point.
Sorry.
I don't want to skip over the vultures. So basically, by hitting things with our cars, is that also like setting up gas stations?
Well,
or is that more of like, I don't know, like pop up like cafes or
no. It'd be more like no, in my mind, it's more like you going to a diner, buying food, and then just tossing the food out the window. That's what we do for vultures, because vultures are, and I love the name because it feels so accurate to how they're just kind of like,
right.
They're looking at you, and they got their eyes, and they're kind of just like, I see you, man. To where you know that if like if you got taken out by something, it wouldn't be long before they're like, oh, all right, I'm gonna switch. Yeah, exactly. And they just always are kind of like, yeah, what's going on? They have. So you want to talk about, if you ever want to go down the nature's cruel rabbit hole on Instagram, you can actually like look at and everyone talks about, nature's so lovely and it's beautiful, and I'm like, great, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Obviously, Rufus is a very beautiful specimen.
Rufus is gorgeous. Rosy red cheek.
Yes, orangey, but that's okay. It's kind of hard to see from here.
Yeah.
But he if you actually look at footage of like lions consuming gazelles, and the gazelle isn't asleep for this, it's alive, or like wild boars being consumed by boa constrictors, in which the boa constrictor will like hug it to death and then eat it while it, and vultures are just kind of like, they just wait for the carnage to end and then they just descend and they're like, oh yeah, we'll take all the leftovers. No problem.
Yeah,
You
don't worry
don't
about
want that? You don't want that? Okay, I'll take it. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, vultures are, I'm glad they're around, but like
we are friends. We are friends. We are friends to the bitter end.
The bitter end.
All right. Owls are cool.
Yeah.
Vultures are cool. We should there's got to be a lot of famous birds. We talked Big Bird, I just said not too long ago.
There you go. Who kind of looks like him, just without the cheeks. A little bit. A lot bigger though.
Yeah, I just learned that Big Bird is 8'2".
Interesting choice. Why
I don't know. I don't know. Everybody always, of all the in-depth conversations I've had about Big Bird, everybody says he's 9 feet tall. But he's 8'2", technically. It's not even like he's 8'9", right? Like I
he's 8'2",
I'm 6 foot, but I'm getting older, so I'm kind of shrinking. So I'm more like 5'11".
I don't know what you're talking about, Rich.
I didn't say 6. I usually say 6 foot.
So do you know what kind of bird he is? Like, did you discover that?
I think he's a canary. He's an anthropomorphic canary. I don't think many canaries are 8'2", but I think he's the exception.
That would be terrifying to see an 8'2" canary. Animals that
bright
are
yellow.
Like there's something especially. I hate to go into this, but there's something especially frightening to me. All right, so a blue whale, no one freaks out. Why? Because it's already 100 feet long. Okay, no problem.
Right.
I saw like a praying mantis the other day, right? At this, somewhere in the lawn or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it looks pretty cool. It's also 4 inches long. That thing was 8 foot. I'd be running. I'd be gone.
Which bears the question: why not? Why isn't an 8-foot praying mantis teaching us the ABCs?
Again,
who made the decision on bird?
I will refer back to the Nature is Cruel Instagram. Nature is great, but there's some things about it where I'm like, this is a respectful distance I shall keep.
Yeah.
But you were saying for Big Bird, he's a canary.
Well, he's a canary. Our Googler says that the actor in Big Bird's suit holds his arm high in the air to maneuver Big Bird's head. So he stands like this all day.
Does he switch arms? Because I feel like that would be like he'd have like a really buff.
I don't think so. Because how traumatizing would that be? Wait, is Sesame Street? Do they shoot it live? I don't know.
No, not live. At least not normally.
Because how horrifying would that be? The guy is like, oh, my arm's tired. You see Big Bird's neck just drop.
There is a thing. I'm like, they got to put the Big Bird puppet somewhere, like when they're not using it. And like, what does that storage room look like?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's some feeling where like I'm really grateful that they don't do like making of videos on Sesame Street, because then there'd be those weird moments that they're like, okay, cut, and then like Bedbird's like,
just staring blankly into the camera.
Strange. There was a great Far Side one that I saw with one of those Muppets in particular, where you see the Muppet at a doctor's office and there's an X-ray behind him, and the doctor says, Mr. the Frog, I hate to tell you, this may come as a shock. And on the X-ray is a human hand inside his face. So I always wondered how Big Bird would have felt if that had ever been told to him. But was there actually a puppeteer inside Big Bird, or was he actually Big Bird?
You know what? I don't think we can just make that assumption. I don't think we can really, until we get the X-ray. And we see some guy inside that's like this. It's like, guys.
Let's see if we can name some of them. The other famous birds that we can think of. Like, I can think of Donald Duck.
Probably the most famous bird.
Probably.
Right? I mean, maybe Big Bird, but Donald Duck.
Yeah, Donald Duck, maybe Daffy Duck, but that would have been like when Looney Tunes was like really big before the film. You know how they would show them right before movies.
Right. A lot of ducks. Darkwing Duck. Remember Darkwing Duck?
Yeah. And then the Scrooge.
Scrooge McDuck.
Who apparently is one of the most wealthy fictitious characters ever.
Yeah, I mean, the classic him diving into his loads of money, which if you did it in real life, you would snap your neck.
Yeah. I love how money is just like, oh, it's a pool.
It's a solid substance.
Which I've always thought
onto a metal floor.
Right, which I think makes more sense to me that like Smaug the dragon. See, I always loved the fact that Smaug just was like buried inside a mountain of gold and he just never came out. Like that to me, most accurate, because you're like, yeah, I just burrow in it and then just sit there the rest of my days. Because
it begs the question, why gold?
Why not gold?
I mean, it could just be like if you value something just to lay on top of it.
So
like, why wouldn't you value feathers more than gold?
No, T-ball trophies. That's what I go with. Just dive into a mountain of T-ball trophies.
Oh yeah.
I got another one. Zazu from The Lion King.
Yeah.
Who was a toucan? I think.
I don't know what it was. I want to say toucan, but I don't feel like. No, it can't be. Toucans are tropical, right?
Yeah, I'll leave it.
I don't think it's a toucan.
I'll leave it to the ornithologist to decide that, who would listen to this on the podcast.
Is that
study birds? Yeah.
Why would they? So you got ornithologists, and then you have the Audubon Society.
Correct.
What does the word Audubon come from?
It comes from an American. His name was John James Audubon, and he was one of America's like he was kind of like the OG naturalist at the time. And there's actually a couple but he has these beautiful and you can look him up, but he has these beautiful drawings where he would do these whatever commission journeys throughout the United States, and he would do drawings of male female bird species all throughout the continent, and a big part of it was conservation. I don't know where it coincides with in terms of the passenger pigeon. The passenger pigeon, for those of you guys who don't know, at the time was one of the most proliferant abundant species of bird in the United States. It would be kind of us talking about the Canada goose, right? Most everyone who is anyone in the United States likely has seen a Canada goose somewhere.
Unfortunately.
And the same thing, and the same thing goes with the passenger pigeon. And people would hunt it. You could eat it. It was kind of going in like a pie. Like apparently it was pretty tasty. But within the course of 100 years, and then all of a sudden there's one passenger pigeon left and she dies in a zoo in captivity, and then they're gone. So and so that's one of those reasons why in particular the Audubon society exists. It's not even to be like hugging trees kind of thing as much it is to keep tabs of the numbers of certain species so they know which ones that need more attention than others kind of thing. It comes from John James Audubon. So he's a cool guy.
You know so much about this.
I'm a bird nerd, man.
Topic.
Come on, this is my time.
This is your time to shine. You are a bird. You're a birdman.
Birdman. So yeah.
Tweety.
That's a good one. Space Jam, which is always a classic. One that is, I suffice to say, it is not the best movie ever, but it is still so memorable. And I love that Tweety does the eye black, right before, and Tweety's 6 inches tall comparatively. So
I thought I saw a putty cat.
All right. So this is a really good thing I want to ask. Do you know what are the professional sport teams that are named after birds in the United States of America?
Atlanta Hawks, Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, so we're going to do NFL first. Okay, go ahead.
Well, sorry, Atlanta Hawks was basketball. I don't know why that was.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking the Falcons. So you're right.
Atlanta Falcons. So NFL, we have Atlanta Falcons, Philadelphia Eagles, Seattle Seahawks. I can't think of any anymore.
Let me think. There's the Pelicans in New Orleans. Who's basketball?
Oh, basketball would be.
Oh,
Hawks,
sorry. Hawks.
I was thinking, are there any other NFL ones?
Oh, so you named Falcons, Eagles, Seahawks,
Cardinals,
and the Ravens. Did you get the Ravens?
Ravens. That's right. Ravens. I like the Baltimore Ravens. It's probably my favorite reason why an animal has been chosen for. Yeah, because of Edgar Allan Poe. That's
named after the Raven poem.
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's a really cool reason. That's got layers to it, right? We're going to be the Ravens, but not because there's a lot of ravens in Baltimore. It's because there's this guy, he wrote this poem, and that poem one of those poems had a raven in it, and we're going to be.
It's there. As far as I know, there's no other team that has specifically chosen their name because of a poem. At least in the major sports. I could be wrong. All right, so the NHL. I know there's the Anaheim Ducks. There's the
Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, the Flying V. The Pittsburgh Penguins. Which I don't know why they're in Pittsburgh per se, but it's nice.
Alliteration.
Alliteration's nice. There's the Atlanta Thrashers, who used to be in Atlanta and named after the Thrasher bird, which was the state bird. And RIP, they went to Winnipeg and became the Jets. And then the Chicago Blackhawks, which is actually not named after, obviously, a bird. It's actually named after an infantry in the United States, which was named after the Black Hawk. Because the Black Hawk was the name of a war chief in the area, I think. So, yeah. Cool. So that's them. You did the NBA, the Hawks, the Pelicans, and the Toronto Raptors, if you're going to go far back enough. And then finally baseball. You have the Blue Jays in Toronto, the Baltimore Orioles.
Okay.
There's a third one. The St. Louis Cardinals.
Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're on top of it. Yeah. I probably would have gotten all the NFL, maybe all the NBA ones, but I probably wouldn't have gotten
NHL. So here's a question: if you could name
soccer.
Ooh, got me there. I do not know.
Yeah.
I probably should know that, but yeah.
We all have weaknesses. That's yours.
Yeah, well, you know. Okay, so I have a question for you. If you were to name in a city that does not have a professional sport team, they're named after a bird, what would you go with?
Thunderbirds would be cool.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be a good
one. I feel like there was a arena football league in Indiana. I think they were called Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds is good.
I'm not sure though.
Yeah. Well, who knows? With the Washington football team, they could take some name suggestions. Personally speaking, I've always thought that if baseball was ever to come back to Brooklyn, you should call them the Brooklyn Pigeons and nickname them the Flock. Because but then like the design would be like from the early 90s with like the graffiti work. So you make the pigeons all kind of like look kind of cool and like ready to, they're going to bust on people. And imagine like if they score a home run, like literally everyone just does this.
Yeah.
They do the head bob. That's the dance.
You call it the coup.
Right. And then
the fans in the coup are bobbing their heads.
Yeah, and free bread scraps for everyone. And they just toss out breadcrumbs to people.
Yeah, breadcrumbs.
That's where we're going. If you're just gonna go the pigeons, you're gonna go full tilt on the whole pigeon thing and just do like everything has to do it. Half-eaten pizza slices, breadcrumbs, bagels that are like half moldy. That's half-eaten. That's what you do. That's what you do at the coup, Yeah,
that's what you do at the coup.
Yeah.
Well, in the coup. That's funny. Well, that brings me to more famous birds, the good feathers. My favorite. Okay, did you ever watch Animaniacs?
Oh, okay. Animaniacs, no. Again, like I said, PBS was for me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, good feathers. All right, I'm going to check that out. Yeah. Pigeons are so weird. They have that look of like, I can't tell if they're either stupid or they're just kind of, but then all of a sudden they kind of look at you like, and you're kind of, and they do that thing. And for those of you who've lived in a major city, New York notwithstanding, but any major city with pigeons, you know the feeling when you're walking or biking and a pigeon comes about this close from taking out your left eye,
right? And
they're just like, and they just miss you, which I always wonder. I'm like, all right, did he do that on purpose, or is he just not that good at navigation that he like almost crashes into the person, but not quite?
Right. There's an old Seinfeld bit where George Costanza, is one of the episodes. He's just like driving down the road with his girlfriend, or I don't know, soon to be wife or something, and they're just talking, and he's driving, and she's like, "Oh, there's a flock of pigeons in the road. Like, watch out!" And he's like, "Oh, they'll move." And then he said something else, and also his feathers just coming up, and the car jumps around, and he's like, "We had a deal." He's like, and then it cuts to like him and Jerry Seinfeld. He's like, "Don't we have a deal with the pigeons?" Like, and Jerry's like, what does he say? He's like, yeah, they move out of our way while we're driving, and we look the other way in the whole statue defecation thing. Which makes sense, because like if I've gotten to the point at least where I'm walking, through Central Park or down the sidewalk or something, and I won't veer left or right anymore because they'll just get out of the way.
They'll get out of the way. They do. And the pigeons are so good at it. And it's funny, like going to a city where even the birds like know exactly, like they're just like the humans. They know exactly how close that you can get before hitting them,
right? Before
they can actually avoid, kind of thing. So yeah, I'm not concerned about hitting them because, like you said, we got a deal. And there was nothing more funny than scrolling and looking at pigeon photos where the pigeons are standing on top of like super serious statues. Statues are like this, and then there's just like, a pigeon on top of George Washington's head or something. Oh man, I want to go over bird phrases. Can we go over bird phrases? Because those, that fascinates me to no end. Because there's a lot of out there. What about a little birdie told me?
Yeah, I've used that myself. It kind of comes off really creepy. I don't know. I don't like. I stopped using it because I hate saying a little birdie told me, because then it's like who?
It's an owl.
Yeah, that's an owl.
To me, it's like one of those like Twilight Zone of like, oh, everything was normal. Then the little birdie started saying things to me, and now I'm hearing all kinds of things.
It's got like a noir feel to it.
Yeah.
Little birdie told me.
Little birdie told me it's a multi.
It sounds like something like that. It sounds like something like a villain would say.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To be coy.
No.
Coy.
Well. Speaking of villains,
that's a fish, not a bird.
Yeah, that's true. Though I've seen videos of ducks feeding koi fish. Yeah, like
eating
literally.
Them?
Yeah, like the duck will like be eating something that the human gives, and then the koi fish will be right there, so he'll just kind of go like this.
They're like sharing?
Yeah. Like I said, birds are very intelligent creatures, and I think that there are some things that we don't give them credit for, and the fact that like they're just like us in that they form emotional bonds in some capacity, whether it's very simple like that, but yeah, it's a thing. It's weird.
Ducks and fish.
Yeah, ducks and fish. Speaking of villains, so one cruel saying that's very common that I've heard is killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah. There's got to be at some point a kinder.
Well, okay,
a kinder way of expressing that.
Let's imagine this too, because like, all right, so you're in a meeting. And everyone's like, oh, well, we've got to do this, we got to do this. Oh, well, you can kill two dogs with one stone by just doing that. I guarantee you someone will actually bring that up to HR or some thing. So like the use of language, it's interesting. The fact that like, because birds are so common, around us, everywhere, and dogs are just pets usually.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing that you can like get away with like murdering birds in your speech and being like, yeah, fine, yeah, 2 birds. Yeah,
how does
definitely.
Rufus feel about that?
How do you feel? He's in his nap stage. You can kind of.
Oh, he is. You're right, because he's only got 1 foot down.
Yeah, he's still watching us. You can kind of see him, but he's still watching us. He's just. You want to come up? No. All right.
Okay. All right.
Let him do his thing.
He's like, no, you're talking about killing birds with stones.
No, he doesn't like. Oh, and he's stretching. Oh, stop! Come here.
Oh, he's biting you.
How do you feel about that?
How do you feel about the phrase "to kill 2 birds with 1 stone"?
Anything?
I'm kind of tempted to do voiceover in the editing.
This is just me. I'm trying to get him to. Sometimes he does it if I whistle.
Well, here, while you're doing that, let me read some updates.
Please, yeah, update me.
Pigeons, not so good at choosing nest locations. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this stems from a story from our Googler. For those of you who don't know, the Googler that we reference in the show is my lovely wife, Andrea Bray.
Yeah, I do.
And she opened the blinds because she heard something. Turns out there was a pigeon nest on our windowsill. And just by opening the blinds, poor Andy apparently scared a pigeon, baby pigeon, to fall. And we lit the windows right above the exit, the main exit for the door. So, yeah, nice little reminder every time we left the apartment that she was a pigeon killer.
Well, speaking of pigeon death, so there's a classic baseball flashback video that you can watch. Randy Johnson, who used to pitch for the Diamondbacks and then the Yankees, right? Yeah. And I forget which I forget which team he was pitching for, but I guarantee you it was destiny. It was so bizarre. You see him rearing up, and Randy Johnson's a monster of a man. I mean, I think he's at least 6'7", something like that, and he's got that really fierce. He was called the Yankee Killer back when he was for the Diamondbacks, and then he signed for the Yankees. But so he goes up and he rears up and he pitches, and as he's pitching, you just all of a sudden you see this, and you're kind of like, wait, what just happened? Like, what just happened? And then you see in slow motion, baseball, pigeon.
Like 1 frame of a pigeon.
And then just one frame of, and then it's like clump of feathers. And it was just like vaporized instantly. And then the catcher catches the ball, and there's this kind of feeling of like, okay. Throw it back. And
that just happened?
Yeah, the pigeon was killed by Randy Johnson. So,
well, speaking of killing pigeons, skeet shooting, shooting clay pigeons.
Yep.
Is a sport.
Yep.
And why do you even call them clay pigeons?
Because it used to be with pigeons.
I understand that, but like,
come on, Rich.
I understand that. I'm just saying, like, once we understood, it's probably not very humane to just release pigeons so that people just shoot them. But we're still going to call the replacements for them clay pigeons.
Again, like I said, as a bird owner, very few people own birds. Again, if you said,
fewer own pigeons.
Right. I'm going to go shoot some clay dogs. Like, changes the conversation.
Clay discs.
Clay discs, yeah. Changes the discs. Disc. I'm going to go shoot some clay disc. Yeah. Sure. We'll stick with that.
Flying clay.
Flying clay. Yeah. I'm going to go shoot some flying clay. Man.
So we have that spectrum of birds and symbology in bird frame.
Okay.
We also have another side, which is the birds and the bees.
Oh, yes. The subject. Oh, the middle school or whatever, I guess younger. I don't know what the age is when you tell your kid the birds and the bees.
Yeah, to any of our younger viewers or younger listeners, this would be a great time to pause and go ask your guardian, what are they talking about on the Table Talk episode? Okay, birds and bees. Don't understand why it is even called birds and bees. Yeah.
I think there's some explanation. Let's see. Hold on. I actually looked this up. Hang on. Okay. All right. So it has to do, it's called The Story of Life, and it's written by Dr. Emma Frances and Gail Drake and published between 1893 and 1930, explaining reproduction using images of blue eggs, wind blowing pollen dust from one plant to another, and bees gathering honey from flowers. So,
but how does that express, like, how does that communicate to, like, I don't know. How old are your kids when you tell them this story?
Well, okay, so here, this is my theory, is that usually when people use phrases such as "to kill two birds with one stone" to birds and the bees, it's an easy way to explain a complicated topic. And mind you, reproduction is not necessarily a complicated topic in its function, but the appropriateness of the discussion of such a topic to a kid. Obviously, there's only so much that a kid is going to either A, understand, B, be an appropriate age to understand, or 3, it's obviously the guardian, whoever it is only going to want to be in this conversation for so long before they're like, all right, let's go get, get some ice cream.
Let's go get some ice cream.
Ice cream's great. But yeah, I'd be very curious why it wasn't like something else, because like birds and the bee, I mean, I'm guessing it's because of that, and maybe it just became like a school catchphrase or something.
Well, I guess it's the symbology of pollination, right? Which is the bee aspect of it.
Right. But
why then the egg, which is very symbolic of what happens after pollination.
Yeah.
Similarly to that topic, storks.
Ooh, yeah. Why did the stork bring it in?
Right.
I don't know. I'm assuming it has to do with like a Mother Goose fable.
Ooh, that's probably right.
Maybe. I'm.
Let's just say it's right.
That's right. Sure, it's right. Yeah. We live in the age of the pandemic and the internet.
Whatever we say,
whatever I say could be right. No, that's a terrible way to go through life. But we'll have to, again. This is my whole thing. We just got to cross-reference the sources, and then we're going to figure out where the stork thing comes from. We'll have to check that in. So maybe the Googler will know that answer.
But also the avian influence in describing the avian influence as euphemisms.
Yeah.
is interesting. Why storks? Why birds and bees? It just seems so interesting.
Well, I mean, the stork thing is like, the element of truth is this: a baby is coming into the world, and it feels like it's just getting dropped in your lap. Which, if you're a little kid and you're going to become a baby brother or a baby sister, a big brother or a big sister, to me, that is an effective way to explain to a 3-year-old that the child will suddenly go from, oh, not here, to here.
The only problem with it is you're saying a bird bigger than you is going to enter our home carrying a child in a blanket.
Yeah. I didn't say it was right. I just say it's I get why it's used.
I like looking at it from the perspective of the kid and just being like, stork. Let me, especially in this day and age, right? Where kid can just grab, jump on a computer and just look up stork and just be like, oh, that thing is huge.
Well, and I could just see, Jerry the stork, walking in, and he's got his little thing, and he's kind of doing this, and then, he opens the door, and then the alarm goes off, and he knows the code, so turns it off, and then drops the baby, and maybe does this and does the swaddling real quick, make sure it's fine, making sure all its vitals are okay, and then it struts away very nicely. Yeah, if you ever want some entertainment, just watch whooping cranes do their like dance thing. They're the besides them and flamingos. Flamingos are bizarre. They are the most bizarre Well, they're not the most bizarre bird that I know of, and I know one, and I want to talk about this guy in a second. But
Okay.
if you want a really funny GIF, and you can look up these like GIFs for laughs, look up just an entire flock of male flamingos all walking together, and they do this thing where they all do this, and they're like synchronized swimmers. They'll like all bob their head in different ways and look around. But it's like a runway model show where they're showing off to the females, and they're all kind of just doing their strut thing.
For those of you listening to the broadcast, we are now watching a flock of flamingos dancing through the water, heads held high, marching in a group to impress the female flamingos. If you're not watching the video, you're not gonna get the joke. But if you're listening, you kind of get it because I've just explained it to you. Thank you. And if you want to see more, please go to YouTube, Table Talk with Rich and Alex, to watch flamingos dancing in front of women. Flamingos.
But it looks hilarious because their legs are like sticks, but there's like 50 of them. So it's just like this whole thing of them moving around. It's very weird. And I don't know why.
They do it as a group?
Yeah, they do it as a group. Now, I could be wrong in saying that it's the males only. It could be male and female all just, doing a big line dance session. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's really, like, flamingos are really funny.
You see a lot of, like, birds in nature that do a lot of elaborate mating dances.
Oh, yeah. The guy's got to work for it.
It's usually singular. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one bird that, like, cleans up every twig in the area and, like, is meticulous about, like, a specific leaf that's in, like, a certain area. Like, he'll clean a circle around it.
Yep.
And then he'll dance on a branch.
Yep. Yeah.
But it's just him. So it's interesting to hear flamingos do it as, like,
I think
choreographed.
I think. Dance. Yeah. I mean, different species do elaborately different things.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, the nature classic March of the Penguins. I mean, it's kind of insane what both male and female, because I think that they mate for life. What they do is crazy in the fact that the female will lay the egg, and then the male sits on the egg and waits out the cold. Like literally, like they lay, like their egg laying happens during the coldest part of the year, which in Antarctica. Right. I mean, think about that, like. We think it's cold in Antarctica in general. And then it's like, oh, that's winter. Why not? So they do this weird shuffling thing where if you see them, they're in this massive ball as a flock because they're flightless and they all kind of like, they cuddle like in a subway kind of thing where you're all not cuddling, but it's practically that. You're just kind of all shoulder to shoulder. But they do this thing where as they do it, they move and the ones in the center slowly work their way out. And the ones on the out slowly work their way in, and the egg is still tucked underneath their body, so they're shuffling with their feet. And this is like they do this for I don't know how many weeks, and then I believe the female goes to get food, then comes back to that. Then they have to march all the way. They can't fly, and then they have all their fish stuck in their gullet, so they're like, "Here, honey," and then they They to the baby cheeks. And then
great fella.
and then I think the female and male switch jobs. So they just do like,
oh really?
Yeah, they do like mixed childcare, which is great. So then the female waits with the baby chick, and then the male goes back out. I mean, you want to talk about like parenting goals. I mean, penguins are relentlessly protective over their young and for each other to an extent.
There's a lot of tap dancing involved in this as well, right?
That is Happy Feet, and that is not the right movie. That is fiction. That is fiction.
That's not?
No, yeah. Penguins don't do jazz dancing, Rich. That's not a thing.
It seemed pretty accurate to me.
That is called an animated movie. And animation is not real.
I mean, it looked pretty real to me. I thought that was cool. I thought that's how they did it. Yeah. Boogie Wonderland.
I mean, personally, I'm a big fan. So I want to take this to, speaking of weird birds. So we talked about the flamingo, talk about the penguin.
What's your weird bird that you like?
All right. So, and I want you to look this up and like, you can look this up right now yourself, and then we'll share this with the audience. So there's a bird, I believe, that is found in Venezuela area, which is in South America, and it is known as the Putu bird. And Putu is Pootoo bird, and they have the most bizarre. They have this look of like that I would have being woken up at 2 a.m. in the morning. And then being flashed to death by a camera, and it's just kind of like this look in the eyes. And they are, and they're honestly their most happy look that you'll find. Yes, yeah. Now you're looking at it, and they're honestly their most happy they are is when they can just like literally sit on a branch, blend in, and do nothing.
Yeah, I'll have a picture of it.
Yeah, but it's something. If you ever are feeling down. I've always thought that, like, just look up the Putu bird. Like, I believe that they are on this beautiful earth that we are graciously given to live in. And I think the Putu bird is there for comedy.
I'm just looking at more pictures.
Yeah, it's for comic relief. And there's also a great one of a Putu bird couple, of a male and a female, and the male's kind of like looking like this, and the female's just kind of like, ugh. And it looks like she's saying, "This guy's an idiot." It's very funny. So that's the weirdest one. And also baby blue herons are very weird looking. But most baby birds look kind of bizarre for a while. So
with those yellow eyes.
Yeah.
So
it's very odd.
Yeah, creepy. One of my favorite, so I mean, not my favorite, but the bird definitely, would be another phrase that, as in terms of giving and receiving,
or flipping the bird,
or flipping. Yes, that is one. So you have for the bird, then you have the bird, you have Larry Bird,
Big Bird,
and you have for the birds, which is basically saying that something is worthless and like might as well be for the birds. So we've gone from sexual euphemism to worthless trash.
To refuse. Just toss out the refuse, man. Toss out the garbage. Well,
birds can be that end or death or just not anything.
So then that leads me to my thought about this. It's called ornithophobia. 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 That's a hard word to say. But it is known as the fear of birds. So let me give you just statistics, because this is an interesting potential subject about this. Yeah. So, and this is where I think goes into what you're saying about there's so many phrases that cover all these gamuts about birds. So how many birds do you think are on this planet, Rufus included, who's now...
How many birds in total? Why do we do this?
How many? Just how many?
Why do we do this? Every time I guess the number.
Yeah. Guess a number, Rich. It's either all or nothing. No.
5 trillion birds.
Wow. Okay. That is too many.
Okay.
But that is okay. That is more the population of ants on this planet, actually. But that's another podcast.
Are there really that many ants?
Yeah, they say that the amount of ants that live on this planet is the same mass as the amount of humans. Yeah. So what? Crystal Skull, for all of its being hated on as a movie, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, that whole thing about the guy being carried away by ants isn't exactly not accurate.
I believe it.
Obviously, they're not going after us, but that's okay. No.
So you mean like Ant-Man is like the most powerful superhero? Really?
I mean, if an ant was human-sized, it could carry a car without breaking a sweat. So put that in terms of their strength.
I still don't understand the physiology.
I don't ask me. But I was going to say, back to the birds. So they estimate on the planet there are 200 to 400 billion birds. Mind you, that's a big number range.
200 to 400 billion?
Billion with a B. And,
okay, I wasn't that far off.
Right, no, not that far. Yeah. that is estimated to be about 40 to 60 birds for every one person. So to think about that, you have 40 crows just, hanging around, eyeing you, and you realize they're like, I mean, just imagine if like those 40 birds around the planet decide to congregate around every human. That'd be a little scary, right? Like, that'd be it'd
be kind of awesome, actually. We each get 40 birds.
Well, but here's the problem, is it's great. And I see crows massing out here, right on my neighbor's roof. This is appropriate because I always think of the Alfred Hitchcock classic, which you know.
The birds.
Very good. Yes.
That's right?
Yeah. No, you got it. And
okay. I was thinking of like Birds Attack.
Birds. Exactly. Birds. Yeah. Well, no, you got it. The birds. So what is the biggest thing about what is the thing about that movie? It's birds going postal, which is another phrase I don't understand. But it's birds that go crazy and they go berserk and they decide to attack all the humans.
Sorry, I just had a visual of birds delivering letters to each other.
Hey, if owls can do it in Harry Potter, crows can do it for Americans. So
the owls in Harry Potter go postal, just like the birds in Alfred Hitchcock's movie, The Birds.
Right. A different kind of postal, very different. So like, did you grow up watching that? Do you remember that, Bert?
I've never seen it. Yeah, sorry. I know that's probably bad. I've never seen it. I know that it's birds attacking people. I think. Well, I will say about what is it? Ornithophobia.
Ornithophobia. Yeah.
Ornithophobia. I will say about ornithophobia that I think it is a valid, because I don't know. Like you said, there's some odd billion of them, 100 billions of them. That's a lot of freaking birds.
That's a lot of birds.
And there's so many. Well, I've been attacked by birds on a few occasions. And like, what do you do? like you don't do anything against a bird attacking you. Yeah. Like, there's nothing you can do. You're not gonna hit it. You're not gonna like it could just fly straight into, like you said, the pigeon fly straight into your eye. You'd not be able to respond to that.
Yeah, it's kind of I think it's the equivalent of of running into a spider web unawares. Where I think it was Jimmy Gaffigan who would once say that no one looks cool when they go through a spider web. Right. Like, you can act all cool and then all of a sudden you hit a spider web and you're like, nope, I just can't do it.
Nope,
and I don't mind spiders. Like, spiders are fine to me, but like the second I run into one, it's okay, gotta get it off. To where I think birds are similar in that usually, birds are of an interesting type where it's like, I think it's because, I mean, their ancestors are dinosaurs, right? It's like the same physiology is what they say is they're basically the descendants of dinosaurs, right. Which is, I guess, like dinosaurs that went through the dryer and sprouted out feathers and, just like, and there it was. There's the bird. All that being said. So like, raptors, that's the bird of prey. It's like eagles, hawks, kestrels, which is this, any of these kind of number of different bird species. So like, it's interesting to me where like, I think there is this primal sense of like, these animals kind of know something. And if they really wanted to turn against me, like you said,
right,
they can't really do much about it.
Right.
But
400 billion, if 400 billion of anything decided they wanted to do something,
they could get it done.
Yeah, I would think they could.
Yeah, if they teamed up and decided. Scary. Yeah, it really is. But I mean, again, it's one of those things where most people, as far as I understand, I would think anyway, statistically, the ownership of birds as pets is less than the ownership of those who own cats or dogs. So the idea of like what a bird is, like, to me, I don't get freaked out by a bird because I've had this guy since 4th grade. So like the look of him, the feel of him, sure, he bites me every now and again, but it's like, it's not that big.
But bite meaning like what? He just like wraps it. Is it like a dog? Like when dogs like wrap their mouths around you, but they don't like really.
Kind of, yeah. He'll tell me in his own way if he like doesn't want to move for some reason. He's an older guy too. But like he'll bite me, but it won't draw blood. But it'll hurt. but it's just kind of one of those. I'm used to it, so it's like okay.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do it all that much. It's just sometimes if he doesn't want to go anywhere, and there are certain levels like what you said. Sometimes it just feels like that, where other times he will clamp down, but like it's not that long.
Sorry, I know we're talking about Alfred Hitchcock, but now that I have a question about for Rufus now.
Yes.
Just birds and bees still. Does Rufus have any younglings at all? Does anything? Do you Rufus? I'm asking about offspring. Are you? Well, first off, I guess the question is: are you attracted to bees?
Comment.
Doesn't look like it.
He sees himself in the video screen.
Yeah, he's checking himself out. Yeah, look at that. Yeah.
Well, and you want to talk about self-awareness problems. He has existed for 22 years, and he still thinks the mirror is a different bird. So.
Oh.
Yeah. Short answer. I'll translate. He does not have any offspring. That has not been.
He doesn't.
No offspring that I know of.
No bird or bee offspring.
No, neither. All
right.
So
just.
Yeah.
I love how I love how his nose is like up here.
Yeah.
It's like up here.
He'll sneeze sometimes too, which is kind of funny. Yeah.
Is it like a whale spout?
Kind of. Yeah. There was one time I felt it too. I was just kind of like, ugh. But yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's Rufus, man. He's been around. He's the reason why I'm a big fan of birds. But birds are a healthy ecosystem. Anywhere you go usually has a lot of birds and a lot of different kinds of birds. So yeah. I would encourage for those of you guys who are doing broom boards, and this is a time, especially if we're all stuck in our given places. One thing I find that's really fun is after dinner and before, say, playing board games is going on a walk. And when you go on a walk, see what kind of birds are around, because this is a great season of the year where all the seasonal birds are here and all the migratory birds that haven't yet migrated south but are local to your area are likely still around. So you'd be surprised at how many you can actually like hear and or see. But yeah, they say it helps a lot, especially for whatever reason, like on a mental health standpoint, being able to go outside and kind of see what nature's like and see different birds. Right. Apparently it's been very, I don't know. I've read in the Washington Post near like where I'm from, and New York Times will talk about like birders actually, they finding it very rejuvenating to be able to do this because human activity is less, the noise is lower. So nature is a little more, it feels more, I guess, safe to explore a little bit. So you'll see more birds kind of around right now, as far as I've been told.
Yeah. So that 400 billion number is probably
it's getting up there.
Yep. Probably closer to the $1 trillion or
trillion dollars.
Trillion.
$1 trillion worth of birds. Rich.
Yeah. Well, hey, we had our first guest ever on the show, and you're looking at him, Rufus. This was awesome. 20, how old?
22.
22-year-old bird. 22-year-old bird, first guest on Table Talk. Welcome, Rufus. It was awesome having you. I'm going to drink to you, Rufus.
Drink to your health, Rufus.
Yes. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Well, guys.
For everybody else, we hope you enjoyed learning how to play Wingspan.
Yeah. And
it's a great game. It really is.
I'm excited frankly, I'm excited for those that can be able to play it, because you get to learn not only how to play a new game, but you get to learn more about your local area and where things are from. The one thing I wanted to bring up, guys, is, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. We'd love to hear from you, obviously, on the YouTube channel, but in particular, if you're on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify or any one of those things, and you get the chance to rate, this is in particular for Apple Podcasts. If you get a chance to rate it and you've enjoyed it, definitely give us a review or a rating. We'd love to hear from you and hear how you thinking this is going. But yeah, so we'd love to hear back.
Yes, absolutely. Special thanks to Hermit Thrush Brewing and what was the
Ghost Hawk Brewing.
Ghost Hawk Brewing. Thanks for giving us some tasty beer to drink while we talked about birds. That's it, guys. Until next time.
Be happy.
Yeah, brew Hoppy, and game on.
Game on. Rufus, I'd give you some, but it probably wouldn't be good for you.
Has he tasted any alcoholic beverage before?
No, he has not. Not that I know of.